Hey guys, welcome back to another video here from the 2024 Chicago Auto Show. Behind me, as you can see, there's the all-new 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe, which I do have a dedicated walk-around video on. Highly recommend checking that video out if you're curious about the top calligraphy trim level in both the green and beige interior as well as the black Napa leather interior. Now anyways, since I have a little bit of extra time here on the second day, I thought I'd do a quick first impression and first comparison between the Santa Fe and of course the 2024 Hyundai Palisade as well, which still remains the larger of the two SUVs. So if you're looking for the most space, highly recommend checking out the Palisade. But if you're looking for a new three-row SUV, maybe don't need all of the space of the Palisade, will the Santa Fe be large enough and still offer most of the same options and features as the Palisade? Well, that's what we're going to find out here in this video. But of course, make sure to stay tuned here on the channel for additional content coming as these start to roll out to local dealerships, which they have been doing so over the last several weeks. So of course, as we know, this is the Serenity white calligraphy that I featured here on the channel yesterday with the beige and green two-tone leather interior. So this is a fully loaded 2.5 liter turbo gasoline Santa Fe. They also do have the hybrid in attendance, which is almost nearly identical in terms of packaging and stuff. That one just has the black leather interior, which again, I did showcase in that video. Now here, I just want to kind of sit inside each of these two models back to back, see how they kind of feel in terms of materials. Now this is the Palisade XRT, which is by far not fully loaded, but they do have a calligraphy right around the corner, which I will use as long as that one is free. But regardless, they both are going to be the same dimensionally and will kind of accomplish the goal of this video. So let's go ahead and sit inside the Santa Fe calligraphy first, touch some of the materials around the interior, just see what it has to offer as a whole. The one thing that of course will stand out in terms of what this vehicle offers is it's much more feature rich and feature packed than that of the outgoing Santa Fe. So we do have the relaxation seat with the extendable thigh cushion, which does come out. So I guess gone is the extendable leg cushion that you'll find in the Palisade in the outgoing Santa Fe. That was just a power retractable, would give you additional seat length, and instead it is replaced by that thigh cushion, the relaxation seat, if you will. So that again is a big difference. I guess I just noticed that now sitting inside of this vehicle. But anyways, setting the seat to my rough approximate driving position, it does feel like a very premium upscale interior with the new dual 12.3-inch screens, the touch center for the climate, heated and ventilated front seats. Really like the dials for the knobs and some of the knurling finish on the outside. I like how they kept all of the physical hard touch buttons on the interior. Of course, we get things like dual wireless chargers for your phone, USB-C data and charge ports, the UVC sanitation compartment, as well as soft touch materials across the dashboard, heads-up display. All that was kind of mostly found on the previous generation, but there of course are several new features which I've detailed here on the channel. But just touching some of the materials on the inside, it's really very premium, very upscale, even compared to the last generation, which was very nice in its own right. I like some of the silver accent finishes that really contrast very nicely. The ambient interior lighting is actually hidden and integrated here in this trim as part of the dashboard. So you can see a little line here, it's kind of translucent, and that will kind of poke through, if you will, when you do have the ambient light enabled on this vehicle. But the Napa leather seating surfaces and the steering wheel, it's all very premium. New design here on the steering wheel, kind of a slim type design here for the controls and the smart cruise control and stuff like that. But I get a sense of it's pretty spacious here on the interior. I don't really have any knee complaints, or the overall width of the front seat isn't too bad. It is a little bit hard touch on the side of the center console here for my right knee, but again, it shouldn't make contact because it is fairly wide. The seats themselves are actually fairly comfortable, and I like the seat bottom is actually fairly lengthy. So I don't think omitting that leg extension cushion is going to be such a big deal, as I feel like I have enough support as it is. And the backrest portion and the headrest are very soft and very plush as well. So really no complaints as far as that goes. I like these controls on the sides of the passenger seat, both for rear occupants as well as the driver, in case they just need to move it up, move it out of the way for the rear occupant. Either person can access those controls. It's a very Genesis-esque feature. But looking at the seating surfaces, you can see nice Napa perforated leather. No real accent stitching on this color combination, but does look very nice and definitely revised over the previous generation Santa Fe. So this seat is set in my approximate driving position. Let's go ahead and take a look at the second row space with that seat set as such. This is going to be a mostly power seat for second row occupants. I'll go ahead and scoot the seat all the way back so I have an idea of the maximum potential legroom behind my rough driving position. And as you can see, there is a ton of space. I have, 6-7 inches of legroom behind my driving position, plenty of footroom down below, and headroom is not going to be a big deal either, given the boxy shape of this SUV. I have 4 inches of headroom, and the glass does cut in here on the side of the headliner here, right above where your head will sit. And I do like the fact that the glass starts about, just in front of the second row occupants, depending on how you have the seat set, and goes well behind the second row into the start of the third row. So I think that really makes it, more open. It makes it feel a little bit more open inside the cabin, and better than having, I guess, the glass only over the second row, if that makes sense. But so I'm gonna go ahead and set the seat to its, middle position, if you will. So move it up just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and access the third row and see what the seat space is like back there. Of course, it does have the one-touch automated manual function, if you will, kind of spring-loaded. We'll go ahead and get inside, put the seat back, let it auto-retract. I can't tell if the seat is going to be all the way back. I don't believe it is. It's actually in its more maybe slightly forward position, if you will. But in terms of legroom back here, I have, you can see, about 2 inches of legroom. So this seat could come back just a little bit from its current position. Maybe where this seat is set, I'll go ahead and slide over here. And yep, this is where it starts to get just a little bit cramped. I don't know if you guys can actually see that or not. But you can see my knees are definitely contacting the back of this seat, and I assume it's close to being all the way in its slid back position. So definitely would not want the seat more than about halfway in its travel back for third row occupants, such as larger adults or something like that. But if this one is, where it is right now, it's really not the end of the world if you do need to spend maybe, an hour or two back here, short to medium distance trips. The seat bottom is a little bit on the shorter side itself. So you can see it is, fairly short, doesn't support my legs too much, and they do sit up off the seat quite a bit. But the seat overall isn't too bad. I would just say the Santa Fe is certainly gonna be, I think, on the smaller side. But let's go ahead and jump into the Palisade. Go run through all 3 seating positions, both the first, second, and third row, and see what my overall comfort level is on, each seating position. Okay, so coming over here to the Palisade calligraphy, this is going to be the equivalent trim level to that Santa Fe right there. Again, not that it matters all that much for this comparison, but it's good to keep it equal in terms of, what the nicest materials here in the Palisade will be. Now, you'll find all the Napa leather seating surfaces here in the Palisade, just like that of the Santa Fe calligraphy. The door panel, I will say, is a little bit more premium in some regards, because you do have some of these nice stainless steel elements for the speaker grille, nice silver accents around the window controls, and I do like this gloss black with the silver accent stripe that runs across the top portion. But I would say it's kind of personal preference. Both are going to be very nice in their own regard, and this vehicle is about $4,000 to $5,000 more expensive than a fully loaded gas Santa Fe calligraphy. But if you do opt for the hybrid calligraphy, the difference comes down to about like $2,000 to $3,000. So sitting inside, I've spent a lot of time here in the Palisade. The feeling I immediately get upon sitting inside of this vehicle is the fact that it seems just a little bit wider from center console to the door panel itself. Now I'll go ahead and put the seat all the way down, because that's typically how I drive. And the center console here just feels a touch lower upon first impressions, and the door panel as well seems maybe just a touch lower as well. So maybe it's the fact that the armrest and the center console in the Santa Fe over there is up maybe just an inch or two higher. But moving the seat up into my approximate driving position, the seats themselves are very nice too. I would say the seat feels maybe a touch wider, which would make sense. If this vehicle is wider as a whole, the seats will be a little bit wider for, maybe larger individuals, or just to match the size of the physical body of this vehicle. But, I really have no complaints with either seats. They're both very nice. Like I said, finished in the Napa leather interior, perforations for the heated and ventilated functions, and I like this pattern at the very top of the backrest there. So I would say, whether I prefer one seat over the other, can't really tell at this moment, because I haven't spent any time in the Santa Fe outside of just checking it out here at the Chicago Auto Show. But I do really like the Palisade seats, and I think they are very impressive. Now you can see in terms of the dash layout, you still have 12.3-inch screens for the gauge cluster as well as the infotainment system, but they are offset more like a traditional layout. Even though this is a digital display, it kind of is inset a little bit like analog gauges traditionally have been inside of vehicles, and all the same hard touch buttons for your controls here are laid out quite differently. No gloss black plastics around here, which I like personally. Definitely prefer that here in the Palisade, but you still have the same size touch buttons for some of the climate controls, but then your heated and ventilated front seats as well as your heated steering wheel are going to be physical buttons in that regard. So just a little bit different of a layout, but let's go ahead and jump into the second and third row and see what the overall space is going to be like back here. So taking a look at the second row, the door opening seems like it's going to be a little bit wider in the Palisade. Step in height, really not too much different between both of these vehicles. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is these are almost fully manual second row seats. So there's no real power adjustment in them, even though they have all the same adjustability, except for the seat bottom does not tilt up like the power adjustment in the Santa Fe Calligraphy. So this kind of fixed in place, but you do have the same manual recline ability and the power release kind of electromechanical function to gain access to the third row is found back here as well. But you will find ventilated seats for second row occupants in the SEL Premium and higher Palisade versus only heated seats in the Limited and Calligraphy new Santa Fe. So that is a difference that I have highlighted in some of my other videos. Now I'll go ahead and put the seat all the way back just to showcase potential legroom. And I would say it's not too far off in the second row with the seat all the way back. Maybe a half to an inch more here in the Palisade behind that first row seat. But really not too much different. And I could expect that because, you know, Hyundai I think has prioritized and allocated space a little bit differently in the Santa Fe over there. So I wouldn't expect the second row per se to be all that different versus these two vehicles. But I think in the third row, that's where the differences really start to lie. So I'll go ahead and put the seat on the right all the way back, which it already is. We'll go ahead and jump into the third row. Does have that one-touch function, works very well in both vehicles. A little bit quicker here in the Palisade because it's more spring-loaded. But stepping inside the Palisade, that is actually much easier. The door opening and, you know, the overall seat position allows for easier ingress here into the third row. And I apologize, it is quite dark back here, but I'll go ahead and put the seat back. It definitely stops at a more upright position, which is okay. And behind the seat, kind of, as you can see, in its mostly forward position, I have a good, I don't know, 4 to 5 inches of legroom. Obviously, the seat can come much farther back. We'll go ahead and slide over here to this seat, which is all the way back. And yes, immediately I can tell my knees are barely brushing the carpet on the back of the seat. So that might just a matter be where it is reclined in its position. But I can actually sit back here with the seat all the way in its backmost position somewhat comfortably. So that immediately to me is the biggest difference you're going to notice is going to be the amount of available space in the third row of the Palisade versus the Santa Fe. The seat cushion itself may not be all that different in length. Again, it is going to be a leather material, so very soft, very plush. You do have the adjustability via the power as well as the heated third row seats all on these buttons right here. So you can adjust and recline the seats via the power buttons, which to me is a little bit nicer of a feature. But yeah, I think that really kind of sums up the video in comparison between the Palisade as well as the Santa Fe. Is basically I'm more comfortable here in the third row of the Palisade. Yes, the glass does not come back quite as far in this particular vehicle. It's mostly over the second row occupants, but if you do need a frequent third row vehicle like this or use the third row in a frequent basis, then I would say the Palisade is still going to be the way to go between each of these two vehicles. But maybe if you just need occasional third row usage, the Santa Fe will suit your needs just fine and get you by with mostly second row usage, but occasional third row usage. So hopefully all that makes sense in this video. But I would say that is going to be the biggest difference still between these two, is the Palisade is still going to be the bigger of the two options. Now I guess we can go ahead and touch quickly on the cargo capacity behind the third row seats. You're going to find, I think, a little bit more here in the Palisade just in terms of depth, but in terms of, you know, floor height, the floor width, in terms of the opening from side to side, that is going to be bigger in the Santa Fe. So kind of a little bit of a trade-off there in terms of the physical opening size of the tailgate. Storage beneath the floor, not all that different, a little bit more here in the Palisade just due to the larger body size of the vehicle. But if we go over here to the Santa Fe really quick, open the hatch up here, you're immediately going to see the actual physical opening is going to be larger. The floor is going to be lower, so easier load in height, if you will, but less depth to that third row. But again, very easy to fold the third row seats down if you do need additional space. And this one being the hybrid means you do get a small section blocked off by, I believe this is a 12-volt battery back here, and that means you cannot store the cargo cover across here if you do option a hybrid Santa Fe, which is a little bit of a bummer in my regard, and I should have mentioned that in my other video, so I do apologize for that. But physical opening is going to be taller, wider, all that good stuff, less depth behind the third row seats, and there you can see the brake lights are illuminated on this one. But yeah, I think that's going to do it and summarize the first impressions and first comparison between the Santa Fe and Palisade in terms of physical size and physical room. Now, of course, make sure to stay tuned here on the channel for additional coverage and content on these two vehicles once they start arriving at dealerships, and I can put two equivalent trim levels side by side and bring you a little bit of a higher quality content, if you will. So I apologize for this here at the Chicago Auto Show, but it's kind of doing the best with what I currently have available. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and or found it helpful. If you did, make sure to hit that like button below. It greatly helps out the channel, these videos. Subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure, like I said, to stay tuned for additional coverage here on the 2024 Santa Fe and other videos here from the 2024 Chicago Auto Show. Really enjoyable experience, a lot of hands-on time with different products that I don't normally have here on the channel. Even if I don't put out a video, I am gaining experience and knowledge of these new products, and eventually I will get some of these as press loans here on the channel from certain manufacturers. So make sure to stay tuned for all of that. I really do appreciate the support here on the channel, and as always, hope to see you guys in the next one.